MyFi Accounting. Glenn, thanks for coming along.
Thanks, Marshall.
Appreciate
nice
your
to be
time.
here.
I know you're a busy man, so I really appreciate your time. Got Craig from Docklands. Should I be looking for property that is negatively geared or positively geared?
Well, that's a great question, Craig, and I guess it depends on your circumstances and your plans and investment objectives. What I might do is talk about the 3 phases of gearing, which many people might not be aware of. So typically when you go out and make an investment property purchase, you would generally be looking to gear up that investment by borrowing money. So gearing refers to the concept of borrowing money to buy an income producing asset. So with rental property investors at the moment in Australia, they are carrying a lot of gearing initially in the property. So your loan is quite high, and so obviously your interest deductions are quite large, which are fully tax deductible for residential investment properties. At that point in time, the income is stable and set at the rent. So you've got quite a large interest deduction against your revenue, which typically your interest would exceed the rental income. So there's a gearing loss there, or a tax loss from the interest repayments. That deduction then comes off your taxable income, typically your wages and salaries that you earn, and therefore produces a tax benefit in terms of a tax refund. So negative gearing generally occurs in the early stages of acquiring an investment property and having quite a large loan with a lower rental yield on that property.
Yep.
As the loan gets repaid down and your rent increases, the gearing status moves from negative into a neutral phase. And this means that the interest expenses are equaling the rental income. So you're not really out of pocket in terms of rental income and interest expense. They're kind of matching each other. Okay. And I call that the neutral phase, where the property's not really costing you any money each month. Then the final phase is the positive gearing. So once again, reducing that loan pretty much to zero. Rental income keeps increasing. So now you have a situation where money is actually building up in your bank account, and the income is so much that it's covering all the costs and more, creating a positive gearing situation. So opposite to negative gearing, positive gearing actually creates a taxable income over and above your salary and wages. So you would expect a tax bill on that extra income you're earning from your rental property investment portfolio. Okay. So just to recap on that, you've got negative gearing where the interest costs on the loan to buy an income producing asset are quite high and not enough to cover your rental income. Then you've got neutral gearing where the rental income meets or equals the interest expense. Then you've got positive geared where the rental income more than covers your interest expense each month.
So, in answering to his question, I think he's looking to that, the negative gearing at the moment is obviously very topical, and there's a lot of conjecture out there around, is negative gearing the reason why properties are so unaffordable, given a lot of investors are getting this, so-called free kick. So, my question to you, personal advice, should there be negative gearing or should they remove it?
That's a great question, and I think there's obviously pros and cons. Personally, I can see what the government are trying to do in terms of improving housing affordability for people to be able to buy and live in homes. So I think the measures taken by the tax office in reducing the tax incentive for purchasing property for those investors will be effective in creating more housing affordability for people out there to buy their first home. Is it right, is it wrong? I think it's really monetary policy we're talking about here, and I think the government is moving in the right direction with it. I still believe there should be an incentive for investors to go out and make investments, because they also do build houses. They help turn the economy over. So if they're building houses, the builders have work, okay? If builders have work, the flow and effect of that in the economy is very important. So I still think it's important for the government not to remove it, but always have a place for investors and gearing and negative gearing in the tax system. So.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that point. I think that although it's seen from some views that as first home buyers, all these investors are getting all these free kicks from the government, but those same policies are available for people buying their first investment home as well.
Correct.
So if they're making the choice of buying an investment first rather than getting a home, then they're going to get the benefits of that negative gearing, which is going to help hopefully build their equity to be able to buy something else later on. So look, I think that it's one of those excuses, I suppose, that people use around the hardness of getting a property, and it certainly is more difficult these days. But these solutions aren't just there for rich people; they're there for everyone. So you speak to your accountant, understand your situation, and see how you can use these policies, I suppose, to get ahead yourself. Rather than see it as maybe a hurdle, look at it as an opportunity to maybe try and get in first and do it that way.
Yeah, definitely. And I think ultimately, and you might agree with me here, Marshall, that ultimately any property investor's goal is to end up with a portfolio of positively geared investment properties.
Correct.
That way they can leave their job and just be the landlord and collect the rent.
Yep.
And go and live and do what they like with their life without financial worries. So that's the ultimate game.
And as you mentioned, property investment, breeds the building new properties, and $1 in construction is $3 in the economy, as they say. So that is producing more jobs and economic growth. So we're cutting something off like negative gearing. Unfortunately, in my view, is there's probably many more negative benefits to everybody, rather than the small perceived benefit to investors who already have multiple properties they're choosing negatively gear. But I think we'd both agree that when it comes to investing, the idea is to make money, not save tax. So,
yeah, correct. And I always advise my clients and sort of say, hey, having a tax problem is a good problem because it means you're making money, and making money is good. So, and in Australia, our tax system's quite generous when compared around the world. Maybe not as generous as some other countries, but we do have great facilities, a good healthcare system, and these sorts of things. So quality of life is very important in that.
We look forward to receiving your questions, and you can post your questions either on our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, or you can private message us on Facebook. Send through your questions, and we look forward to answering them.